This is Jason Estey, of course, also known as ESTEY'S Crime Mace. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. By the way, how is the volume right now? Testing, 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Let me know, my friends. I got an epic live for you, okay? I really do, I think. It's not going to be a long one live, but we're going to expose somebody today, everybody. It needs to be done. I'm one of the few, if not the only YouTuber out there that tells the truth on some of these other YouTubers out there. And I try to do it respectful for the most part, but I'm also firm, my friends. You know, you got to remember, everyone, the feds, especially in concerning the IDAHO4 case and other true crime cases. Reason, logic, common sense, everyone. We can absolutely know that the feds at times are going to use misinformation, disinformation agents on YouTube, right? And whether it be Facebook and all kinds of other platforms. But we're talking YouTube today, everyone. There's disinformation, misinformation agents out there, okay? There are people that are trying to claim, they keep telling us 1,000 times a day or thousands of times in all their videos that there was an atrocity, right? They followed what we've been fed by the FBI, CIA. A lot of these YouTubers, some of them are just grifters, and that's all they're doing. They just want to make money, some of them. And then there's other YouTubers out there that they're just so naive, apparently, even after several years of this case of the IDAHO4. And I don't claim to be perfect, my friends. I don't have all the answers, but I know one thing. In my opinion, this was a staged crime scene. The students are most likely alive. Yes, it was an extraction removal operation, I think clearly by the U.S. Marshals, my friends. And so all 4 students, they're going to be protected in the WITSEC program. WITEC, that's the Federal Witness Security Program of the United States, my friends. That's the real reality of this case. That is the biggest lie that we've been fed, that there was an atrocity and the students were stabbed to death. It's all horseshit, my friends, okay? They weren't stabbed to death. There's no evidence to even support there was a real crime. Now, it took me about a year or a little over a year to actually connect the dots, my friends, and realize, well, wait a sec. Yeah, the FBI, CIA, local law enforcement on this IDAHO4 case, they're lying to us. There's no evidence to even support that there was even a crime, that there were no body bags seen. I talk about this in my videos over and over again, right, everyone? No body bags. No coroner van seen, right? No security camera footage of the crime scene. No cell phone camera footage, my friend. No raw crime scene footage. And no leaked raw crime scene photos. Are you kidding me? My friends, in almost every high-profile case, we know you're going to get raw crime scene photos or leaked cell phone footage or autopsy photos, right, everyone? This is just reason, logic, common sense. But not in this case, my friends. And there's only one reason, logic, common sense. Can't we infer, everyone? That means there was no crime scene. You would have absolutely seen body bags, 4 body bags come out if there was a real quadruple homicide. This is reason, logic, common sense. Not to mention, as many people have said, hello, Krista. Thank you for being here, sweetheart. Krista. Yes. So today, my friends, I want to expose somebody he doesn't tell you any of what I'm telling you today, the real truth on this case. He says the opposite, okay? And who am I referring to? Hi, Kristen, 13. Hi, Kristen. Thank you for being here live. And T. Kuhn, keep it coming, my friends. Leave the comments and questions. And tell me what country you're from if you want. Yasser's here. Thank you, Yasser. Yasser 2157. So today, my friends, I want to expose, because it needs to be done, this Jay Embry PAV. And please, my friends, all of you that fully support and believe everything that PAV's telling you, if you really believe, Jay Embry, that an atrocity happened, right? And that the Aryan Knights and Aryan families were able to do this hit, if you really believe that Jay Embry's being honest with you and you believe this, I believe horsepucky from him, that's okay. But just know, my friends, again, no leaked raw crime scene photos. This Jay Embry, is he a misinformation, disinformation agent? We got to ask the hard questions, everyone. The guy, all of you that support Jay Embry, and I supported him for the first year, but then I realized in my opinion, he's full of nonsense largely. This guy will not do interviews. He just did one half-ass interview that I know of with A.R. Hayes, right? A Convict's Thoughts. Jay Embry will not do interviews, my friends. Why? There's only one reason, I think reason, logic, common sense we can infer, everyone, because this guy is afraid. He doesn't have the balls to do interviews because he knows that somebody like me is going to destroy his whole narrative, my friends, that he has fed you, the public, right? From day one. Oh, there was a quadruple homicide. Yeah, the FBI, CIA, I guess they're right. They told us that a quadruple homicide happened and local law enforcement. And yet, Jay Embry, my friends, he will not tell you the truth. There is no evidence. There's no concrete evidence that a crime scene took place. Again, because there's no leaked raw crime scene photos. There's no cell phone camera footage. There's not one neighbor that saw or testified that they saw a crime take place, right, everyone? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. No coroner van showed up, no photos, no leaked autopsy photos, nothing. No sirens. Many people have talked about this, right, everyone? Why is your guy, Jay Embry, those of you that fully supporting this guy, and that's fine, why isn't he talking about this? He should be telling you the truth of this, right? He won't do it, my friends. He won't do it, and you got to ask why, right? If you really want to be honest, I think I know the answer. But again, everyone, I'm not saying that Jay Embry is a misinformation, disinformation agent. I'll let you make up your mind, everyone. And if he's not, then why does he keep telling us an atrocity took place? And why does he not talk about the extraction removal operation, at least as a theory, if not a very viable theory? I think that's the absolute truth of this case, everyone. Clearly, these students were extracted, taken out of the house, because again, there's nothing to show us otherwise that they were stabbed to death. And yet, Jay Embry, my friends, he's doing lives now or videos. He's trying to convince the public, seemingly, that Kaylee and Maddie were shot with a gun. Are you kidding me? And then he says, "But I don't know if they shot Kaylee or not. If they got to her," he says, and he's saying that the just because we've been fed that they're the same blood type, I believe Kaylee and Maddie, that shows it's the same assailant that killed, Maddie and Kaylee. It's all nonsense, my friends. In my opinion, this Pavarotti, he knows better. He knows what he's saying. He absolutely knows what he's doing, everyone. And I would ask Pavarotti in an interview, dude, are you working for somebody? Are you a Fed? Are you working with the Feds? You see, he doesn't want these hard questions asked, everyone. And I'd be respectful in our interview. I've challenged this Jay Embry. He's got 30,000 subscribers or more, right? Partly because he's done hundreds and hundreds of videos on the IDAHO4 every day. Many of us could get thousands and thousands of subscribers, I'm sure, if that's all we did is do hundreds of videos on the IDAHO4. But again, everyone, there's so much that this Pavarotti refuses to discuss, and he won't do interviews to discuss this, my friends. You see, in my opinion, isn't it huge red flags that you've got a YouTuber who's built up this huge channel on the IDAHO4, does nothing really primarily but the IDAHO4 for the most part. That's fine. And I think he's got another channel he was going to go by talking about politics or something. But so on the IDAHO4, everyone, this guy refuses to do interviews. Isn't that huge red flags? There's got to be a reason why he refuses to do interviews, everyone. And he'll never interview me, I don't think, but I'm still going to challenge this guy. If he has any courage or balls, he should interview somebody like me, in my opinion. Outcast 420, thank you. Pav enters chat. Yeah, let's see what Pav's got to say on his chat page. And I challenged this Jay Embry Pavarotti to a boxing match, a fun boxing match. So all of you that fully support Pavarotti, I'm sure you can get behind a boxing match between us, hopefully in the future, raise money for charity. I got to heal my intercostal injury, though. So I haven't been able to train. And again, my friends, for all of you that support Jay Embry, again, I fully was supporting a lot of his videos and what he had to say in a way in that first year, okay, or half a year. But then you realize, wait a second, he keeps telling us, again, an atrocity happened. He repeats that mantra over and over again, probably in every single video that he does on the IDAHO4, doesn't he, everyone? Keeps trying to convince you that an atrocity took place. Wait a second. Just because CIA and FBI told us, and corporate media and local law enforcement, That doesn't mean there's no evidence to show that the crime took place. The evidence shows that this was a huge cover-up, my friends. Jay Embry talks a little bit about parts of the cover-up of this case, but he doesn't tell you the most important thing, that the students are most likely out of the country. There was no tragedy. This is the good news, right, everyone? There was no tragedy. You see, my friends, the problem that Pavarotti has with me, one of the main facts of this case, as I just told you earlier, everyone, if he interviewed somebody like myself, somebody who's being honest, who's showing you that what an extraction removal operation is, what the real WITSEC program is about, and USC Code 31 WITSEC, okay? Jay Embry did one video on the WITSEC program, but there's a lot it didn't tell you, my friends. Now, I'll give you an example. One thing that I think Pavarotti is probably running away from with guys like me, I'm only the second YouTuber that I know of to show you what USC Code 31 WITSEC means. And I've talked about this in interviews, everyone, past interviews, but Pavarotti won't interview me yet. See, Pavarotti, my friends, I don't think he wants you to know this because it blows his whole narrative out of the water, doesn't it? USC Code 31 WITSEC, it allows the government to literally stage a violent event if a confidential informant has been compromised. Did you know that, everyone? Let me repeat that. USC Code 31 WITSEC. It allows, and they use national security, by the way, and they have exemptions under the Patriot Act and prosecutorial discretion, okay? So it'll literally, my friends, if a confidential informant's been compromised, they can legally stage a violent event. And that's what the IDAHO4 is, I believe, everyone. We've got, amazing comment. I think it was a great comment coming in and it just disappeared. Somebody says, sorry, didn't want to talk in your place, Outcast 420, but I think it would be great conversation between Outcast and ESTEY'S. Exactly. Outcast, if you want to come on as a guest on my show, I don't know, I don't have StreamYard though. By all means, if there's a way we could set it up, and I'd love to come on your platform. Absolutely. We're going to do an interview, Outcast and me. Can't wait. Thank you, Outcast. Yeah, don't you agree, Outcast? There's a lot of questions about this Pavarotti, Jay Embry, because as I was saying, everyone, he will not discuss USC Code 31 WITSEC. He put out a video a little bit on the WITSEC program. It was somewhat interesting, but he will not mention that the government, the feds, can legally stage a violent event if a confidential informant's been compromised. This is one of the many things I've learned in this case, my friends. And Pavarotti knows it because he watches my videos. Believe it or not, he does. He listens to me. He's even responded to one of my videos that almost went viral on YouTube here, which was cool. So again, everyone, let's just be honest, right? Let's call a spade a spade. Again, if you guys want to support Jay Embry, fine. You know, I'm still amazed though how many people, they get so, but I know why, they get so emotional. They're so emotionally invested in, I guess, enjoying Pavarotti's videos and listening to this guy, and that's fine. Again, I pay attention to some of his videos and what the heck he's spewing out. But again, everyone, remember psychology, that if you start hard and fast in a belief about something, you're not going to be able to help somebody facilitate making a change. So everybody that's started hard and fast in believing Jay Embry, you know, it's very difficult for them to get them to stop their belief system. And I'm not here to change minds, but I'm here to educate as much as I can, you know. And you guys educate me a lot with your amazing research on the IDAHO4 often. Outcast is almost each night live. He has a good setup for you to jump in whenever. I love that. I am so looking forward to doing this interview finally with Outcast. So thank you all of you that support Outcast 420. You see, my friends, like I like Outcast 420. He doesn't do what Pavarotti's doing. Outcast doesn't tell you in almost every single video. He's not telling you, oh, an atrocity took place and it must be the Aryan family, the Aryan Knights, and all this horse shit. Come on. I don't know why the comments they come up and then they disappear, everyone. But I'm looking when they reappear. And I thank you for, again, your comments and questions, everyone. Yeah, and I've been thankful. I've been interviewed. I'm a regular guest on Devil's Advocate show, Lee's. So I want to give a big shout out to Lee, DA at Devil's Advocates. and our amazing guests over there. We got Joe. Check him out, my friends. He's on X at Deep State, or State of the Deep, pardon me. And a big shout out to One, who's also on the show, of course, and the amazing co-producer, Crystal. Crystal, right? Yes. God, I hope, no, Robin. I'm all over the place, my friends. Sorry. Check out Devil's Advocate Show, everyone. We got an amazing co-producer, Robin. And of course, D.A. Lee is the main creator of the show. He's got amazing graphics with Amanda B., I believe is her name. She's done fantastic graphics. I've been honored. I'm a fairly regular guest on the show. Hopefully I can go on tonight, but it depends on this injury here. So back to Pavarotti, everyone. See, Outcast doesn't tell you, unlike Pavarotti, he doesn't try to convince you that an atrocity took place. And again, Aryan family, Aryan Knights. Why is Jay Embry, why is he so adamant after all this time? He never will go off the fact that an atrocity took place. How could a hit even take place, my friends? Think about it. Even Steve G admitted, and I said this in many of my videos, I normally don't believe Steve G, but he was telling you the truth when he said the feds had surveillance all around the house, my friends. So how could the U.S. Marshals allow any Aryan member family or Aryan Knights or cartel members, how could they allow a huge hit to take place with one or more assailants going into that house? Then they got to stab 4 healthy people? Are you kidding me? And get out clean? And then yet you leave 2 roommates alive, Dylan, Bethany? Does any of that make any sense, my friends? I think when you use reason, logic, common sense, it doesn't, right, everyone? No way. And Aryan family, Aryan Knights, they're not going to leave 2 rooms. You know what Pavarotti said? He said he thinks that they left them alive because, they intimidated them. Or sorry, Pavarotti was explaining that the delayed 911 call, right? He doesn't even tell you why they were left alive, but he says they delayed the 911 call. Remember, it's been delayed at least 8 hours, right? It was delayed. He tries to tell you that he thinks it's because the Aryan Knights and Aryan family members intimidated them. You're going to bother to intimidate and leave 2 surviving roommates after you just did a quadruple unaliving murders in the house? Are you kidding me? We know that doesn't happen, right, everyone? If you're going to do this evil, brutal hit, you're not going to leave 2 surviving roommates. It's not going to happen. That's not how they work. Pavarotti knows it, and we can know that, my friend. So why is he saying this nonsense? Outcast doesn't brainwash his audience. Exactly. You see, everyone, again, the feds will put out certain YouTubers, I believe, to brainwash you, in my opinion, right? There's going to be disinformation, misinformation agents. I'm not saying Pavarotti is one of them. I'll let you make up your mind, my friends. Is it possible this guy is putting out misinformation, disinformation, right? And he wears glasses all the time, never shows you his eyes except once. Isn't that a Fed move, my friends? A lot of people have said that. That's what feds do often. But, you know, maybe it's just, we could say it's just a shtick. Give him the benefit of the doubt. Outcast is the brain. We're the wave that washes and spreads the word to grow his channel, grow ESTEY'S channel. Exactly. Thank you, Outcast. Outcast is amazing. By the way, everyone, you can check out our baby video. Outcast did a funny video with me as a baby, my face, challenging Jay Embry, Pavarotti, and he had Jay Embry as a baby too. It was great. So again, everyone, even if you want to give Pavarotti the benefit of the doubt and say, it's just a shtick, Jason, he's choosing to wear dark shades, you know, it's kind of strange. He won't show us his eyes, but that's his shtick. Okay. Why won't he interview somebody or talk about, wait a second, is it possible that actually there was no tragedy? The U.S. Marshals, again, extracted and removed those students. They protected them. And now they're off in the WITSEC program, just like Jay Embry did a video on some of the aspects of the WITSEC program, the Federal Witness Security Program, the Witness Protection Program of the United States. And again, they have that infrastructure in places like Puerto Rico, which isn't too far from Costa Rica, where the Gonzalez's like to have vacations. Remember, folks? I believe Kaylee's vacationed in Costa Rica. And I always wonder, has Kaylee, if I'm right and she's in the WITSEC program, or was, and I think I am correct, that you can voluntarily get out of that program, folks. There's nobody after Maddie and Kaylee now. especially when they're gone from out of this country, I believe, everyone. And believe me, I think they're in places like Costa Rica. I really do. Either that or they're, again, in Puerto Rico where they actually have the WITSEC program. Again, you can voluntarily get out of these programs. I know some of you that have watched Jay Embry for the last couple of years, you might be saying to yourself, and you've never watched my videos, you might be saying, well, wait a second, Jason. Pavarotti, though, he keeps telling us an atrocity took place. Did a quadruple homicide, it must have happened. But if you listen to my earlier live today, everyone, and I'll tell you again, if there was a quadruple real murder in that house, my friends, if this wasn't staged in a huge cover-up, we would have seen 4 body bags come out, my friends. Think about that. We would have seen either cell phone camera footage of the crime scene, and or we would have seen security camera, right, of the crime scene. And we would have heard police sirens and ambulances coming to the house. There was none of that, folks. Somebody just left a comment about PAV. I want to read it. I think it was a good one, probably. It's going to pop up on the screen here, my friends. The fact that PAV isn't open to alternative or he won't discuss his convictions with others up on the facts sketch from LAM. Thank you. Exactly. I want to read that again if it pops up one more time to the audience here. I totally agree with you. It's sketch. It's unfortunate, everyone. You know, again, the feds, my friends, we got to be very careful, I believe, with some of the creators on YouTube, whether it be the IDAHO4 case, Charlie Kirk case, and there's other great YouTubers that do a great job, that like devil's advocates, my friends. You see, Lee, unlike Pavarotti, Lee has the balls to interview me and have me as a guest talking about extraction removal operation. We talk about other theories too, but Lee actually gives me and other people to be able to bounce our ideas off one another. PAV doesn't do this. T. Kuhn says, so I could argue you think 4 young college students, oh, sorry, my friends, T. Kuhn, I'm waiting for his comment to come back up here. He or she, T. Kuhn. T. Kuhn. Are you a guy, T. Kuhn, or are you a woman? Oh, the comment hasn't popped back up. So, anyone have any questions? The comments, I can't see any more comments coming through here. Oh no. Oh, here it is. So I could argue that 4 young college students are going to give up their freedom and stay secluded. Well, they may stay secluded and they'll be able to live low profile lives and they can live productive lives. And I'll give you an example. Maddie has just bought a new house, apparently. Did you know that, folks? How many of you knew that? I'll tell you why I know this. Yes, come up whenever to the Outcast podcast. We defend you, bro. We got your back. Thank you. That means a lot. Appreciate it. I'm glad they got my back. Do you guys know why I mentioned that Maddie just bought a new house? Do you know how we can know that, I believe? Does anyone want to leave a comment on that? While I'm waiting, I'll tell you. As I said on Devil's Advocate show and in my other interviews, folks, remember Christy Gonzalez. It was in not her most recent interview, but it was one of her recent interviews a few months ago. She literally blurted out. Yeah, Christy said so. Exactly. Christy told you, she said that Maddie just bought a new house. She didn't quite finish the word, but we all know the word she must have meant, which was house. Maddie just bought a new house, as in house. And then, my friends, this is part, I think, why you know she blurted it out by an accident, because she left the interview. She looked nervous. She left the interview. In my opinion, she probably called her lawyer and just said, uh-oh, did I just blow it? I just said, Maddie just bought a new house, basically. My friends, this is the reality of this case. Christy G and Steve G, in my opinion, everybody, they are lying to you and they're collecting a lot of money. They can't prove to you their daughter died and got stabbed to death. They know she's alive, in my opinion, everyone. There's more evidence to show that these students circumstantially are alive than there ever was that they're dead. There's nothing. the crime scene tape, whoop-de-doo. It was all staged. Okay, you had some forensic investigators in the house. Again, so what? It's still staged. Some of those forensic investigators, by the way, everyone, they didn't even wear proper PPE gear. My sister's an amazing frontline nurse. Sometimes those forensic investigators did not wear a mask. Sometimes they didn't wear their slippers, right? Same with the U.S. Marshals. Many times they weren't even wearing gloves and they're moving shit out, and then they move out the boxes eventually after the so-called crime. And then, my friends, we could go on and on. More things that Pavarotti won't talk about. The boxes said North American Relocation Services. That in itself is very strange, isn't it, folks? And then the website, as Bertie said, it looked like it went down within 24 to 48 hours. And the parent company of North American Relocation Services is called SIRVA, S-I-R-V-A. Pavarotti will never tell you, apparently, any of this, my friends. And in my opinion, if he really wants the truth on the IDAHO4 and wants to be honest with the public, he should be discussing this. SIRVA, they work with the feds, North American Relocation Services. The parent company is SIRVA, which works with the feds. They move, cooling outfits and refrigerators and things like that. Yes, they do that, but they also have a Schedule 48. And Bertie found this out. A Schedule 48, it allows them to move valuable federal law enforcement assets. They're valuable law assets. Like they can move confidential informants, my friends. This is what they're designed to do. And government officials, again, valuable assets to the government. Pavarotti has not said a goddamn thing about that as far as I know, my friends. And that is irreprehensible to me. Right, Donna? Yeah, most of them were not wearing protective wear at the crime scene. Exactly. You see, my friends, that shows you, in my opinion, it was, again, it's clearly a staged crime scene, folks. Again, Pavarotti won't tell you this. USC Code 31 WITSEC, if a confidential informant's been compromised, the feds, my friends, they can do all this. They can literally stage a violent event, a crime scene, like the IDAHO4, my friends. They can do it. And didn't we see that? That's what played out, my friends. Because again, using national security with the exemptions under the Patriot Act and prosecutorial discretion, they can seal records. They can redact anything they want in the documents. Pavarotti, he keeps bragging that, he's reading the documents. And if you go by the documents, but he doesn't tell you that, wait a second. Again, using prosecutorial discretion in that USC Code 31, WITSEC, they can seal all records if they want. They can do a whole show trial. And that's what we saw, my friends, right? And another thing, I could go on for an hour of what Pavarotti, I believe, should be telling you, my friends. He doesn't tell you, wait a sec, what was I going to say? What does he not tell you? There's something else, my friends. Anyways, back to, again, my friends, Pavarotti, he doesn't tell you, he keeps saying that Brian Kohberger didn't do the crime, right? And he built up all these followers, many of them, because we support Brian Kohberger. He had nothing to do with the crime. Well, yeah, he's right. But Pavarotti, my friends, I'm almost positive he has never told you that Brian Kohberger, at least in my opinion, he was a Fed. He was an absolute confidential informant or a federal agent himself. He was working with the feds, Brian Kohberger. Think about it, everyone, right? This is what the feds do. And again, Pavarotti doesn't tell you this. They will embed very intelligent people like a Brian Kohberger studying a PhD in criminology. And then we know a Brian Kohberger, he tried to enroll in the police department, everyone. You don't think he was an intelligence asset? You don't think he was working with the feds and possibly helping with drug investigations? You don't think that Brian Kohberger was a willing participant in all this? I think he was. Pavarotti hasn't said that. Brian Kohberger played his role, my friends. He's an actor. He was used as the perfect distraction, I believe, and we saw it play out in the IDAHO4, my friends. But Pav won't go there. And you got to wonder why, in my opinion, everyone. Why hasn't Pavarotti said, wait a second, what if Brian Kohberger was working with the police departments this whole time? I think it's clear as day now, everyone. Okay, and again, Brian Kohberger, I think, fits the bill, everyone, the whole narrative planting, right? He was this PhD criminology student. And again, the feds and the CIA, some of the intelligence community and or FBI as well, they will sometimes groom, again, very people in high academic positions. This is a Brian Kohberger to a T, isn't it, folks? I think so. It took me about a year to figure that one out, but I never believed Brian Kohberger would have been able to stab 4 healthy people. I mean, come on, 10 to 12 minutes, it's ridiculous. But you got, again, everyone, you got Pavarotti. We're in 2025 now, right? And he keeps telling you that now he's saying that Maddie and Kaylee were shot, right? And he talks about the stab wounds. And then he goes by the coroner reports. He just did a live or a video. And he talked as if we should just trust. He said in so many words, but you basically just trust what the coroner is saying, her reports. Because he's going by the coroner reports. So in other words, he's just saying, basically, I think he's implying, just don't question the coroner. I mean, come on, the coroner's in on this, folks, in my opinion, right? She'd have to be. It's a huge cover-up, my friend. She's just controlled by the feds. She's told largely what to say. And just look at her interviews from the beginning of this case. Many people said something didn't smell right. She was very nervous. She acted weird. She said many weird things, by the way. When do you hear a coroner say, oh, because she was describing Maddie having, different wounds and attacked differently and fighting for her life or something. Coroners don't do that normally, folks, or ever. Come on. So I think Kathleen Mabbitt, my friend, she's an interesting woman, but I don't think we can trust her, in my opinion, on this case, the IDAHO4. Like many people, you can't trust the coroner. But apparently Pavarotti trusts her, I guess. So whatever. Why would the IDAHO4 need to be extracted? What is the point? Well, that's the million-dollar question. You see, where I have to agree with Pavarotti, Jay Embry, there's a few things I agree with him. I think it's obvious, I would agree with him that it's obvious somebody had it out for these girls. Somebody probably did have, in one way or another, maybe a hit out on one or more people. But it's a whole other thing to say, my friends, that the hit got carried out. Why on earth would the U.S. Marshals not do an extraction removal operation? They had surveillance all around the house. They most likely would absolutely know who was targeting these girls and which students, were really in danger and targeted. And they would have got them out of there, my friends. And Ethan Chapman, he may have been extracted because he was, he was part of the association of the girls. He was, of course, Xana's boyfriend, right, everyone? Doesn't that make sense? So that's probably why I'm surmising that I believe Ethan was extracted as well. I don't believe he was stabbed to death. No way. Absolutely not, my friends. And again, this is the good news, right? We don't have to feel demoralized and sad that all 4 students in the IDAHO4 were killed. I think it's garbage. But again, my friends, it's interesting to have different theories and speculations, right? And I'm not going to knock you for having different opinions. DA, sometimes he doesn't necessarily agree with me. But I think, but he admits he's looking more now at this extraction removal operation as a real possibility. Were these students extracted? Why wouldn't they be, everyone? Again, the U.S. Marshals had surveillance around the house. Even Steve G admitted that to you, and I normally don't trust Steve G, but he was telling you the truth there. And there was undercover cops, my friends, right? That night and leading up to, there were all kinds of undercover cops. So I would argue there's no way Airing and Family Airing Nights could get in, do a quadruple, stabbings, get out, and plus they're going to leave 2 roommates alive, and you're going to have a delayed 9-hour or 8-hour 911 call. That doesn't happen, folks, unless it's staged, in my opinion, right? Unless it's staged. 1 sec, my friends. I'm going to let the dog in. 1 sec. It's okay. Come on. Thank you. Thanks for waiting, everyone. Just let the beautiful dog in. And I'm going to let him back out again. Or no, he's good. Does anyone have any more questions or statements? I'm going to, Donna's everywhere. Nadia, she also said So much blood. That's from Donna Alamander, 8960. Thank you. Mabbott told us it was a crime scene. Yeah, Mabbott. We can't trust your folks. There's nothing to show there was a real crime scene, in my opinion. Nothing. It was other than the crime scene tape, you know, and the badges. You know, I'll never forget something, my friends. Again, Pavarotti will never tell you this. He will never discuss this because he doesn't do interviews. And he will never discuss it on his own, apparently on his videos, my friends. He hasn't up to this point. I agree with Phoenix when she was on the Birdie show. She said in so many words, she said, you take away the crime scene tape and the badges. And then she said something like, it would be almost like I'm giving you, say, pizza and beer to clean out my shit at the end of the semester. That's how they treated this so-called crime scene at times. And again, everyone, if there was a quadruple murder, unalivings, stabbings, right? You'd have so much blood. But that blood on the foundation of the house that we saw, everyone, that confused me for the first year or two, right? I'm looking at you're seeing this blood many times when you're researching the IDAHO4 on the foundation of the house. The whole public saw it. But my friends, that's just part of the staging. I realize this, right? Because the feds, again, can legally stage a violent event, okay? If a confidential informant's been compromised. So that's most likely just pig's blood or it's paint. And it's very, very easy, as we know, for a forensic investigator or probably even cops to do that, my friends. Because the feds, I believe they had to put one thing in front of our face, in front of our eyes, as part of this hideous psyop, psychological operations. They had to put one thing in front of our eyes to manipulate our perceptions, everyone. And what better way than you put pig's blood or something red blood on the foundation of the house? But that wasn't from victims, my friends. And you know why also you can know that that wasn't blood from Xana or Ethan or Kaylee or Maddie? You know why? Because if that was real blood as part of a real crime scene, everyone, and forensics thing, they would have cleared that shit up after probably the first day or two. They would have to clean up that blood off the foundation of the house. We saw that day in and day out, didn't we, everyone? How long was that so-called blood from the victims on the foundation of the house? Probably over a month. It's ridiculous. They would have cleaned that up within a day or two. And I wish I had thought about that right from the beginning of this case, but a lot of us weren't necessarily thinking those linear lines, right? So it's just another huge red flag in this case, my friends. But we don't have to be hoodwinked. You know, we really don't. And again, I get hard on Pavarotti, Jay Embry. I don't hate this guy. I don't. I'm sure I could even like this guy having a beer with him and or boxing. But I am frustrated with him because he knows he should be doing interviews, in my opinion. And he knows that if he really wanted the truth and if he really wanted justice, in this case of the IDAHO4, and if he really stood behind justice, in my opinion, he'd be interviewing people like me that are showing you, wait a second. No, all 4 students are probably alive. This was an extraction removal operation done most likely by the feds. And it looks like a whole staged crime scene. There's no evidence to show that there are 4 bodies dead other than the nonsense that we've been spewed. And again, everyone, Pavarotti will read these documents and that's fine, but he's not telling you apparently, well, wait a second. The feds, with something like the IDAHO4, I believe, using USC Code 31, they can literally lie and seal documents, redact documents. They can do a whole show hearing, show trial. And that's what we saw in the IDAHO4, my friends, right? It was just a show trial, show hearing. And then you got Brian pleading guilty because, you know, anyway, it's just crazy, right? Why would Brian plead guilty? It's so stupid. But thank you again for being here, everyone. I hope you subscribe to my channel, by the way. Maybe I should have asked you nicely at the beginning of this live. I'd love it if you support my work. I want to thank again Outcast 420 for coming on here and wanting me to be interviewed by him. I won't be able to do it tonight. I got to get caught up on sleep and my injuries bother me, Outcast, but we'll definitely do it. So keep reaching out to me. I appreciate it, buddy. Send me an email, by the way, Outcast 420, because I haven't been able to. I sent one email back to you, but I haven't been able to get your email properly or something. It won't let me send them. So Anyway, back to you guys and gals. Thank you. I hope you'll subscribe to my channel again. Hope you give me a thumbs up if you enjoy my videos. Helps with the algorithms as well. Hit the bell icon to be notified for future videos, everyone. And again, we got to ask some, I think, some hard questions from some of these so-called truthers on the Idaho 4. And again, my friends, do the feds have some misinformation, disinformation agents out there on social media trying to muddy the waters of what really happened with the Idaho 4? Are they trying to lie and deceive you at times? I think the answer is yes. There will be creators out there, my friends, and I'm not one of them. That's why I've challenged this Pavarotti to tell the real truth. Let's talk about the real truth, I believe, of this case. And he could try to justify in an interview why you're so convinced that the hit got carried out, Jay Embry. Wait a second. You're sure an atrocity took place, Pav, when there was no body bag seen? No raw crime scene footage of the crime? Are you kidding me? What about that, Pavarotti? What about when they moved those boxes and it said North American Relocation Services and the parent company, you find out, is Serva, which has a Schedule 48 that allows them to move valuable government assets? That can't be just a coincidence, folks. And then they got the U.S. Marshal's Office that's not very far away. Are you kidding me? This shows it was a federal operation, folks, from day one, I believe. Total stage, man. Total cover-up. And to answer a question earlier, I think the girls, I can only surmise, and Ethan Chapman, I believe they were extracted because they obviously, somebody had it out for them. And the government wanted to protect their valuable assets. I'm sure there was at least one confidential informant living at 1122 King Road. This has been talked about by many people. I've talked about it over at DA's show, Devil's Advocates. So, was Kaylee a confidential informant? And or was Maddie? Was there more than one confidential informant? Was maybe Bethany or Dylan confidential informants, right? Is it possible Ethan Chapman was, or Xana? Certainly, everyone. There was a lot of drug running, we know, a lot of covert drug investigations, and a lot of, and 112 King Road was a party house. So naturally, it's not a far stretch to think there was at least one confidential informant living at 1122 King Road. And then I don't think it's a far stretch to say, that, yeah, one of the girls, most likely, she may have flapped her lips a little bit too much, maybe even Ethan. But somebody blew their cover in some way. And the feds knew that, right? Because they're working with the confidential informant. So they knew then they had to do an operation. They had to do it very covert and then do an extraction removal operation to get these students out and protected. That's the real reason, logic, common sense, I believe, in this case. And the circumstantial evidence supports it, folks. And look at the law. Again, Pavarotti goes over documents and laws, but he doesn't tell you USC Code 31 Woodseck and what it allows them to do. That the feds can legally stage a violent event. Okay? Pavarotti's never told you this, folks. Why? Why won't he interview somebody like myself that's going to talk about this with our audience? And many, many of you are starting to agree with me, which is wonderful. But you don't have to. But I think I'm making sense here. So yes, thank you so much for your comments, everyone. I really appreciate it, and or questions. Thank you for being here, sharing your times with me. It's ESTEY'S Crime Maze. Again, I hope you subscribe to my channel, folks. And by the way, you could check me out as a regular guest over at Devil's Advocate Show. I'm honored and privileged to be over there. He does nightly broadcasts. He goes one-on-one with Birdie every Monday night. So please support Devil's Advocates platform, everyone, if you haven't already done so. If you enjoy his videos, which I think you will, give him a subscribe, of course, and a like and all that good stuff. Okay, folks? As I say sometimes on my introduction on Devil's Advocate Show, I think it's the most entertaining and most thought-provocative, true crime channel out there. It really is, the most exciting one. We got some, and the guests do an amazing job. So thanks, everyone. I got to go. Again, I hope you'll support me. Thank you, Outcast 420, for your support, buddy. Thanks for doing that amazing, hilarious video with me challenging this Pavarotti Jay Embry to a boxing match and an interview. You see, Jay Embry, I think, my friends, at times, somebody like me, I can put pressure on this guy, and with you out there as well, because, my friends, many of us, we really want the truth of this case. We don't want to be hoodwinked by any creator. We don't want to be hoodwinked by CIA, FBI narratives. Just because they tell us that an atrocity happened, We don't have to believe that, my friends, because there's no concrete evidence again to show an atrocity happened. So why is Pavarotti going on and on about the student stabbed to death and shot and this and that, and he thinks Kaylee's nose was busted just because Steve G told us, the father? It's all lies, in my opinion, everyone, okay? We can't even trust most of the time what Steve G, half the stuff he blurts out, okay? The guy still thinks Brian Kohberger, is a killer, all this bullshit. So these are all my opinions, my friends, but I think a lot of the facts back it up. And I appreciate you listening, my friends. And we can agree to disagree, right? That's okay too. We can have different perspectives. And I appreciate the intelligent discourse. I won't give up challenging this Jay Embry Pavarotti, and I won't give up on exposing this guy from time to time. Because if he really did have balls, if he really did have courage, if he really wanted to get as much truth as possible in the IDAHO4 case, I think he would be doing interviews and or interviewing somebody like myself, because I'm going to show his audience, well, wait a second, Jay Embry, you keep saying there was an atrocity. You keep telling us the students were stabbed to death and now shot and all this stuff. Really? Well, then why no security camera footage of the crime scene, of the actual crime? Now we're getting, so-called leaked photos, all horseshit. But why no security camera of the actual crime? Why no cell phone coverage? You don't think neighbors would be taking cell phone coverage during the 911 call or before or after? Of course they would, right? My friends, this is reason, logic, common sense. And or there's no leaked raw crime scene photos from day one. Nothing, my friends, because there was no crime and no body bag seen and no police sirens. Remember during the whole 911 and all this 8 hours delay, there was no neighbors testified that they heard police sirens, ambulances. You would have absolutely had police cop cars all over the place, sirens, ambulances, right? Because it's a quadruple, you're checking out a potential quadruple homicide and maybe the students are alive. You're going to have the ambulance lights going on. Nobody heard that, folks. So this all goes to show you, I believe, that it was a staged crime scene, folks, that there was no crime. There was no tragedy, folks, at 1122 King Road. And again, this is great news, isn't it, my friends? I think more people are onto this theory now, and I really appreciate it. There were a couple YouTubers that brought up the possibility, they didn't use the word extraction, I don't think, back in the day, but they brought up the possibility that, wait, maybe the students are in a witness protection program. Maybe they weren't killed, because nothing makes sense in this case, right? The only thing that really makes sense, in my opinion, is that the students were extracted. They were removed from that house, and they're protected most likely in a WITSEC program or voluntarily got out of it. And we know, my friends, because Christy G told you, Maddie just bought a new house, as in house. She blurted it out probably by an accident in an interview, folks. It's right there. And Pavarotti still hasn't played that clip, my friends. Bubbly Waters was the first one to catch it and play it on her video. And she even speculated, well, she said, are they in a witness protection program? She said, basically, it sounds like they're witness protection. Because Christy's saying by an accident, Maddie just bought a new house. Pavarotti is friends with Bubbly Waters. They actually, watch each other's videos from time to time, and they're friends. And yet Pavarotti, he refuses to show you that Christy blurted, Maddie just bought a new house. And you know why, my friends? Because in my opinion, Pavarotti, he's scared, everyone. Isn't he? He's scared. He knows that many of his subscribers that bought into all of the stuff that he's been spewing out, they're going to question, wait a sec, Pavarotti, doesn't this mean that the students could be alive? That somebody like ESTEY'S crime maze? I think he's right. That all 4 students are probably in a WITSEC program somewhere. They certainly were extracted because it was a staged crime scene, Pavarotti, right? And Christy's just told you Maddie just bought a new house, so she's alive, apparently. But Pavarotti, my friends, he doesn't want you to know this truth, apparently, because he won't play the clip, right? Again, more huge red flags, in my opinion, folks. But I'm just saying, and again, I don't hate this guy, not by a long shot. Jay Embry Pavarotti, I don't hate you, dude. I'm just disappointed because some of us, like myself, we're really after the truth. We're not working for agencies to train to lie, deny, and deceive us. And that's one of the questions I had for you, Jay Embry. Are you working for an agency or a group? I just question you, dude. Otherwise, I think you'd be great to have a beer with. And maybe we can after a boxing fight, Jay Embry. And I'm going to win. But I got to get this injury healed up so I can start training. And again, I respect that Jay Embry boxes, that he hopefully played sports growing up. And, there's some good qualities at times about this Pavarotti, and he's a good entertainer. I'd give him that. Pavarotti, you're a good entertainer. But Pavarotti, are you giving us misinformation, disinformation, possibly on purpose? What are you doing, dude? I just showed you through the law that the feds can actually stage a violent event. I actually do interviews at times when given the opportunity, and I could do them, not just videos on my own. Why aren't you doing interviews, Pavarotti? Is there a reason? Are you told to put out a certain narrative and not to do interviews hardly ever? Is that these are the questions, my friends, I think, I think it's fair to ask, right? And that's what I'd like to ask Pavarotti, and how you don't think this was a staged crime scene, therefore, Pavarotti. And I would show his audience what I've talked about on this live. No body bag scene, no raw crime scene photos, no neighbor saw the crime scene, apparently, the crime, And then you get nonsense from Hunter Johnson, right? Climbing up the stairs and, during the 911 call, and we're supposed to believe, I guess he saw one of the bodies. That's not evidence, folks, right, everyone? And many of us know probably Hunter Johnson is probably lying. Come on. Reason, logic, common sense. Anyway, those are things I want to share with you, everyone. Hopefully one day, maybe Pavarotti can finally prove me wrong and have the balls to interview somebody like myself. But I don't think he will, everyone. And I think you know why. Okay? I know why. But maybe he'll prove me wrong. Hopefully one day. Anyway, thanks, everyone. And he'll keep doing what he's doing. I'll keep doing what I'm doing, everyone. But I'm trying to provide you real truth and transparency on what I've learned of the IDAHO4 case. And I'm not always right in everything I'm probably saying, but I think I'm correct in the biggest part of this case, everyone. I really think I'm correct when all four students most likely are alive in this case, folks. There was no tragedy. This was a staged crime scene. Yeah, in my opinion, folks, and circumstantial evidence points towards that. Got to go. Thanks, everyone. Take care. This is ESTEY'S Crime Maze. Hope you'll subscribe. And have a beautiful morning, evening, or afternoon, wherever you are. Thanks, everyone. Even Pavarotti, I hope you have a great morning, evening, or afternoon, wherever you are, Pav. And again, I got questions for you, Pav. Let's do an interview or boxing match someday. See ya. Whoops, sorry, folks. End the live here. Sorry, my friends. I don't even know how to end this live now. It should be easy, right? But thank you, everyone, for being here. Oh, here we go. Goodbye, everybody.